Okay.
Yeah, that's about it. Nothing exciting.
Sometimes that's a good thing.
Yes.
So I guess you probably all have a copy of the agenda or some way to get a hold of that. Uh, we're going to have an introduction to First2 a bit from Debbie Shaver, then PDSA refresher from Jared, and then we're going to kind of, well, it's supposed to be interactive all along the way, but then we're going to more discuss components for the summer program, break out and discuss what particular PDSAs we might develop, and then more discussion about summer, including student mentors, student selection, student recruiting. So with that, if you're ready to go, Debbie, you could be on.
I am. And do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, hi, everyone. A lot of you I don't know yet. Great to hear your introductions. So Jared and I from SRI are going to be leading a discussion and some activities today about using implementation science tools to create lasting improvement. And first, I have a poll. And let's see, I think I have to go back to Zoom to put it in the chat. Has anyone else used Poll Everywhere?
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully you're familiar with it. Let's see, I don't know how do I go? Do I have to unshare my screen to do the chat? I don't see the chat. That's what I'm going to do.
If you're the presenter, when you have your screen open, there's 3 little buttons up at the top, and you get more, and you can see the chat in that. But you don't see it unless you mouse over. Sorry.
Okay. But actually, probably most of you have a cell phone, so you probably don't need the what I just did. So if you haven't done this before, if you're using your smartphone, in the to area, the person you're sending a message to, that's where you type 22333. And then in the message portion, you would type Debbie Shaver 243. I don't think caps matter. So go ahead and do that. If you don't have a smartphone, then a smartphone, then click on the link. And in there, it'll ask you for your name, but just skip that. It says skip because we want to make sure that this is anonymous. So I'm going to go to the poll. Okay, so the first question, how familiar are you with PDSAs? We have some people responding. I'm going to give it some time. Let me know if you're having any trouble getting on. So people are doing it correctly. So what you're going to do once you're in is you're going to enter A, B, C, or D, and just send that as a text. Okay, it looks like we've stopped there. So the largest group says, what's a PDSA? So good. We're going to be talking about that today. Okay, I have one more poll question. Oops. And it's this one. Okay, so which of the following statements best describes your connection with the First2 community? And it's anonymous, so answer honestly. Okay.
Although you get percentages, do you also get numbers?
I'm sure I could look at that. This is the first time I've ever run it myself. So I'm sure that there's a way to look at that. Because, is this like out of, a few people or most of us?
Sure, thanks.
Okay, so more people feel very connected. Some of you who have been involved with this community. And some of you are fairly new to this, so that is not surprising. So I wanted to do that as just a way to show, this is a real quick and dirty way to collect some data. And we're going to be talking about that more later on. All right. Well, I want to start by setting the stage and backing up a step and helping us think about what is First2 really all about? What is this a part of? And as it turns out, it's a part of something much bigger than First2. I'm sure most of you know, I'm sure probably all of you know, that the First2 Network is funded by NSF, and it's part of their Includes initiative. This initiative was launched a little over 5 years ago, and it was really a shift in how NSF was trying to reach its goal of broadening STEM participation, increasing the pool and the diversity of STEM talent. And in the past, they focused on individual projects, and many of those projects were very successful, but they weren't seeing meaningful change across the nation in that broadening STEM participation. So they made a major shift, and now they are focused on networks and partnerships at a national level to all work together collaboratively in a more intentional and systematic way so that we're all focused and working on this goal together and learning from each other. The First2 Network is an NSF alliance, and the alliances are supposed to be using principles that are based on a model called collective impact. That's a model that's been used in cities and collaboratives in different parts of the country, and it generally has these 5 components, and these components were required by NSF for alliances to get funding. So the first is that you bring people together around a shared vision of what is it that we're trying to accomplish together. Partnerships across multiple institutions and organizations is key. Using shared goals and metrics so that we're all doing this together and moving, making progress together and know what those shared goals are. Building capacity for leadership and communication, and focusing on expansion, sustainability, and scale. So the First2 Network is required to have all these components, but then it goes up a level to the whole Includes network, where they're trying to bring all the alliances together and national organizations and other partners to build the knowledge across all of these funded projects so that they can really start seeing a difference in that goal. And so the work you are doing at a site running a summer immersion program is part of this much larger effort to really make a difference in this goal and to share learnings across each other. So we're going to be talking about PDSAs and learning. As you do that, you're not just learning for yourselves at your institutions, but you are learning for our network, and the network will be passing those learnings on to the big national network that's part of Include. So what you're doing is really important for this much bigger goal of really seeing a change in that goal. Just to add to the First2 approach, here is the aim, and I imagine you're all familiar with this, but the shared vision for First2 is to double the graduation rate of students in West Virginia who enter college with a declared STEM major, who actually complete a STEM degree within 4 years. And then First2, as you know, is particularly interested in the rural first-generation students. So the approach, First2 was required to use those principles of collective impact that I just talked about, but also First2 decided to leverage the power of improvement science, which is a way to increase and accelerate learnings so that you're learning to improve and you're just building on your success. So improvement science is a discipline, and we're going to get into at least one tool, and that's the PDSA. It helps us understand what we need to know in order to improve practice to then improve outcomes. Networked improvement communities are one part of that, and they are structured and disciplined by improvement science. So the First2 Network is a networked improvement community, all working together around a common goal. Just very briefly, this is the kind of the phases of a model for improvement. up in the upper left corner, you started with identifying the problem and the system. A number of you were involved at the beginning of the grant and actually before the grant in identifying what's the problem we are trying to address and what are those underlying root causes. Then you moved on to articulating a theory of practice improvement, and you did that through a driver diagram. And that's where you put your best bets on the areas of practice that First2 was going to focus on to be able to reach your aim. Then some of the people in this Zoom meeting identified some change ideas that they wanted to try, and then going down to the bottom, did some tests of changes. And from some of those tests, you all have found some successful efforts. For example, the summer research immersions. So that started a couple years ago, and you've been building on the success of that. And now you're at the point where you're starting to spread and scale to additional sites and continue to learn through this process. I'm not going to go over this whole driver diagram if you haven't seen it before, but I just want to orientate you to a couple things. So on the left is the goal, the aim, which is to double the graduation rate for STEM majors. Then you have the primary drivers, and First2 has identified 4 main categories. The first is faculty-student engagement, then is immersive experiences, college readiness, and institutional change capacity in partnerships. Those are those 4 big boxes in that first long column. So looking at immersive experiences that you're all involved in, here it says the goal of this working group, and that is to improve first-generation students' deep sense of belonging in a STEM community of practice made up of peers, near peers, and professionals, and their self-efficacy in their STEM abilities. So that is the goal that you're all working toward with the summer immersion programs. I'm not going to go into the rest of this diagram. The right side are some of the more specific areas of practice within each of these 4 categories that First2 has identified. But I just wanted to, this is just a refresher on kind of where you are in this whole process. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jared, who's going to share his screen and talk about PDSAs. And you're going to find out, what is a PDSA?